If I don't do nothing else, I'm gonna talk that law. Let's talk about it. They done got him again, y'all. They done got him again. But first, for those who don't know me, I am a Texas trial attorney, going on my 5th year in the game, up and down the highways and byways, in courtrooms all across the state. Y'all see the license on the wall signed by the 9 justices of the Supreme Court. Let's get into it. I'm going to break down the second contempt order. The second. They want to leave this man alone. Golly, prosecutors, y'all must don't have a case. Y'all trying to put him in jail for a side offense. Come on now, make it make sense. Tell me something. Tell me something good. And I didn't know they were going to have that hearing today. I didn't know they were going to hold him in criminal contempt for the second time. I was minding my business. I was drinking my water when I got the alert on my phone. Beyonce said on my video phone. If you want to, you can watch me on your video phone. And I got the alert on my phone. And I said, you know what? I have to do a video. But in order for this video to be seen by the multitude, I need y'all to like, comment, and subscribe. YouTube have an algorithm. We need to get this thing circulating. I need to catch on the algorithm train. So before you get too far in the video, hit that like button. And later on, I might even do a video about Nathan Wade. All that line you doing down there in the state of Georgia, boy, you got to be ashamed of yourself. Lying like that about your relationship with Bonnie Willis while she walking around with a man who they say ain't her husband. So let's look at this contempt order. The judge wrote an order. And Nathan Wade, he ain't the only one. Y'all see the sign lying. Trump judge, I got a bone to pick with you, sir. I read your order from top to bottom. And it was something in your order that didn't make sense to me. So we're going to review that. We're going to review it all. But before I go over the order and break it down exactly what it's stating, let's take a look at a video, just a piece of a video that I seen online. In this video, one of the reporters has a calendar, and that calendar was a really good calendar because it shows us the dates of when the alleged gag order violations happened and when did Trump receive notice that he was in violation of the gag orders. So that timeline is going to be really important because it will show us how I believe that the judge, either he was mistaken in his order or he straight up lied in his order. So we got some lying going on the East Coast from New York to Georgia. So if I do a second video, which I think I want to do it now, I feel it. I want to do that second video. I'm going to leave up the, I know you lying. Let's look at the piece of that video so y'all can see what I'm talking about. Let me share my screen, if it will. It's only going to be a piece, just the main piece. Let's see if we can share it.
Right off the bat this Monday morning, but Caitlin with the breaking news down at the courthouse. Thank you. Laura Coates, let me go to you first. I mean, we're now hearing the judge raise this prospect of jail time for Donald Trump. As Karen was saying a few moments ago, it could be an hour, it could be a couple of hours, might not be overnight, but he's talking jail.
He is. And I want to go to my tablet here because I want to explain to people a little bit about the timing of this and why it is the judge is saying, look, you've been warned before. This happened before. I actually had my order before. I'm going to put this up here for everyone if you can see. And it's the gag order slide I want to look at, because you had the original gag order that was issued on this date here on, of course, March 26th. Then you had the different dates where he was alleged to have have these violations in red, on the 10th, the 13th, the 15th, 17th. Some of these are multiple dates, by the way, Jim. Then you had these other due dates in question. You had the 22nd, 3rd, and the 25th there. These all happened, though, and the allegations occurred before this important date here, April 30th, which is when you had the first ruling of the $9,000 in fines, $1,000 for each of the actual posts, which is the maximum they can give, and the post. He didn't have the requisite amount of warning. That's why this is important here. And he says, look, had these happened essentially before, after I'd given this warning, it's a whole different ball game. But now it can escalate beyond that, which is part of the reason why we're so concerned about the idea of, well, why did you wait so long to have, one, the hearing about these issues, and two, to make your decision? Because conceivably, he could have had other dates he violated as well. So you can see it maybe a graduated, now there's notice happening. Whether that will be the deterrent or an invitation to martyrdom is a different story.
Yeah, and I do want to talk about the politics of this with John, Jamie, and Kristen in a moment. But Ellie, to you first. What does the judge gain out of putting Trump in jail for an hour? I mean, is that going to curb his behavior? I mean, he's really in a box here, the judge, a little bit.
The judge has a remarkably limited set of enforcement tools at his disposal here, as Laura was just laying out. All he can do is put these sort of ineffectual $1,000 fines in place, or the big punishment of locking Donald Trump up, even for a few hours, which is fraught politically. It would worry me what that would do to the jury. They would certainly know that he had been locked up for some reason or other. But I think the timeline is crucial here, as Laura was pointing out, because while I share in the criticism of the judge for taking too long to hold these hearings and to issue these rulings, it sort of looks like it's working a little bit, right? Ever since the judge came out last week and said, if I have to, I will lock you up, Trump has not violated the gag order. Now, he doesn't deserve a gold medal for that or anything, but it's been a solid week and change since Donald Trump has actually violated the gag order. And he now seems to understand what he can and cannot do. And let's all keep in mind, this gag order is extraordinarily narrow. Donald Trump, those pre-court rants that he goes on every day where he says the judge is out to get me, these charges are bogus, the DA has bad motives, false as they are, they are allowed within the gag order. So let's hope for the sake of efficiency moving forward that we've reached some sort of understanding here and the judge's threats are working.
Yeah, we do have to point out he is not telling the truth about the gag order. He continued to say that this morning, just a few moments ago, because I'm under a gag order, I can't do this. You can testify, you can tell your side of the story if you want.
Oddly, the gag order allows him to lie about the gag order.
Exactly. Andrew, your thoughts?
I think it's almost impossible to predict how anything will affect Donald Trump's behavior. So that's the wild card. But you have to give him credit for not having violated the gag order since we got the ruling down. So we'll see where that goes. But I do think that Judge Merchan has proven himself to be a guy who will make the tough choice. So if pushed to what he believes is the edge of this cliff, I think you could see jail time coming. How he administers that, an amount of time, or when that jail time is served, are all kind of up in the air. I actually think a post-trial sentence, if you will, is the most likely alternative, because it pushes some of those trial impact, jury impact issues off.
He could say, I'm going to do this to you, but you're going to have to wait. We're all going to have to wait to see that.
It also gives him an opportunity to change his mind before that day.
All right, so that's what I want y'all to see. Let's go to the calendar. I'm going to pause. Let me see if I can find where your calendar at, girl, on your tablet. Okay, so these are the main dates that we need to take a look at, because the dates are important here. And hopefully y'all can see that. So Trump was issued a gag order on March the 26th. He supposedly violated the gag order on the 10th, the 13th, 15th, 16th, and 17th. Then after that, he supposedly violated it 3 more times on the 22nd, 23rd, and the 25th. So he violated it 2 different sets of times. That's easy to understand. The first ones are in red, the second ones are in yellow. But the judge did not reprimand him until the 30th, April the 30th. April the 30th, he said, hey, Trump, I'm going to fine you $1,000 per violation, and you could possibly face jail. But when the judge issued that ruling on the 30th, it was only for the ones and the dates in red, the 10th, 13th, 15th, 16th, 17th. He only warned him about those dates. He hadn't addressed the ones in yellow yet. The ones, the 22nd, 23rd, and the 25th, the ones that's in the question mark. He didn't address those on his 30th ruling. He said, I'm going to wait and have that later on. So today, what's today? May 6th, the judge decided to address the ones in yellow. And what surprised me with the judge, he's saying, apparently Trump didn't learn his lesson. He's still violating my gag order. So I'm going to threaten him with jail potentially if he does it again. But my issue is, Judge, he did not violate the gag order since you released your first ruling on April the 30th. Today's May 6th, so it's only been, 6-7 days. So he hasn't violated your gag order. Yes, he's found in contempt again, but that's for dates that happened before you told him what your expectations are. So you can't say, hey, the fines are not working. I find him for a violation on the 10th, 13th, 15th, 16th, 17th, and he's still violating my gag order. No, Judge. He didn't violate your gag order since the 30th. Everything came before you issued your first ruling. Now, had the judge issued his first ruling on, let's say, April 18th, then anything that came after the 18th would have been new violations, like real new violations, because now you have warning, you have notice not to do it again. But the judge is penalizing Trump for things that he didn't even know about until after the fact. So the judge waited too late to issue his gag order ruling on April 30th when Trump supposedly violated the first time on April 10th. After April 10th, the judge should have been on it. Like, hey, April 11th, I would have came to court. Don't do it again. And we would have never had those other dates. But the judge waited 20 days to give Trump time to keep violating the gag order without maybe even knowing he's violating the gag order. Because in Trump's mind, he's saying, I'm not even violating the gag order. It's political speech. I'm running for president. So I'm allowed to talk about political things while I'm on the campaign trail. And even when he's outside of court, in Trump's mind, he's on the campaign trail. So I get what Trump is saying. Let's take a look at the gag order. Let's see what the judge is saying. If I can, let me see if I can pop back over here. Now, computer, I need you to do right today, okay? Let's go to page 1. Okay. So Supreme Court of the State of New York, and I'm gonna skip read. This is a lot. Just skip read. It's 5 pages, but it's still a lot. It's saying a whole bunch of the same stuff he said the first time. And some people say maybe saying a whole bunch of nothing. Depends on who you ask. But this is the people's motion for contempt, and this is the order by Judge Juan Merchan. And here he gives the background. And we kind of know what the background is. Trump is charged with 34 counts of falsifying business records in the first degree in violation of Penal Code 175.10. The charges arise from allegations that Trump attempted to conceal an illegal scheme to influence the 2016 presidential election. Specifically, the people, the prosecutors, Alvin Bragg, claimed that Trump directed an attorney who worked for his company to pay $130,000 to an adult film actress shortly before the election to prevent her from publicizing an alleged sexual encounter with Trump. It is further alleged that the defendant thereafter reimbursed the attorney for the payments through a series of checks and caused business records associated with the repayments to be falsified to conceal his criminal conduct. Trial on this matter commenced on April 15, 2024. So the first paragraph is pretty self-explanatory. Trump's charged with 34 counts. They upped it to a first degree because they're saying that he wrote false checks in an attempt to influence the election. And when you write false checks in the attempt to commit another crime or committing another crime, then we can bump it up to a felony. And it's been argued, even by myself, that maybe it's a misdemeanor if the checks are false, but the statute of limitations had passed already, so they can bring misdemeanor charges. So what they said is, yeah, he wrote false checks, but he did it to influence the election. So now we can bump it up to a felony of the first degree. All right. The second paragraph, and this is just background information from the judge before he lay down the law with his hammer. February 22nd, 2024, Alvin Bragg, the prosecutors, the people, filed a motion for an order restricting extrajudicial statements by the defendant, aka Trump. March 26th, this court granted the people's motion and issued an order. Herein, after the order, on March 28th, 2024, the people, Alvin Bragg, the prosecutors, filed a pre-motion letter seeking clarification or confirmation of the March 26th order. So they're saying, Judge, we need you to clarify, what is this order saying? Does it mean he can't say nothing at all? Does it mean that he could say stuff when he's on the campaign trail? We need you to clarify. And then on April 1st, the court clarified. Not only did they clarify, they expanded it. They saying the judge added more people. He said, hey, you can't talk about, this is the judge. The judge said, you can talk about me. You can't talk about my daughter. Even if my daughter is working with the Democrats and working in the White House or working with the current president, former president, who knows, anything Democrat related, don't talk about my daughter. So he had to add his family to the order. The judge also said you could talk about the prosecutor, Alvin Bragg, but you can't talk about his family, as well as the court staff. So that's pretty much what that second paragraph is saying. I mean, that's self-explanatory, who you can and who you can't talk about. Trump appealed it. He went to the New York Appeals Court, the first department, and they said, no, we deny your appeal. The gag order stands. Then on April 15th, the people, the prosecutors, Alvin Bragg, moved by order to show cause to find Trump in criminal contempt for allegedly willfully violating the expanded order on 3 separate occasions. That's the first time, April 15th. Then 3 days later, they filed another motion. They said, hey, Judge, hold Trump in contempt. He's still talking to the news reporters. He's talking about people. Lock him up. Matter of fact, I don't even think they wanted him locked up the first time. They just wanted him to pay $1,000 each fine. Each time. So $1,000 per fine, per violation. So that's like, the first time it was $9,000. And today was an extra $1,000. So far, Trump has been ordered to pay $10,000. So they basically telling the judge to lock him up. And we kind of went over this the last time, so I don't really have to go over this verbatim. They had a hearing April 23rd, April 30th. See, the judge waited 20 days. From April 10th all the way to April 30th, the court found Trump in criminal contempt. And I know the judge wanted to take his time. He wanted to write a good order because he know people like me and the rest of the world are going to be reading it. But to tell you the truth, the order wasn't all that. I've seen lawyers write motions in less time and way better than this court order. So if it took him 20 days to do this, that's sad. We had legal briefs in law school that was longer than this, that in shorter time that we have to get done. And the writing had to be good quality writing. Yeah, he put a little legalese. He made it sound good, but it ain't nothing just impressive. He threw a few big words in there, like incarceratory. I guess that means a person that's locked up or somebody that can go to jail. He threw a few big words, but as far as the order itself is basic. Basic. So let's go down. He found him, $1,000 for each of the first 9 violations. But here, the people, let me see if I can highlight that. Messed it up. Okay, there we go. The people seek a $1,000 fine for each of the 4 alleged violations. So now they're saying, hey, Judge, the 4 more that came after the first set, we want you to fine them for that as well. And I'm like, okay. My question is to the judge, why didn't you do them all at the same time? They all came before April 30th. You should have did them all at the same time on April 30th, and then you wouldn't have to worry about it. But it's more salacious when you say he violated it a second time. You can sell more newspapers. You get more buzz and more fuss around the courthouse. So let's see what the court found. Findings of fact. This court has considered the respective arguments of both parties, the exhibits introduced into evidence at the hearing, and all submissions filed in support of and in opposition to the motion for contempt. As more fully explained in the Assistant District Attorney Conroy's affirmation of April 25th, 2024, the people, the prosecutors, Alvin Bragg alleged defendant Trump violated the expanded order on 4 separate occasions. So this is what they're saying. He violated the second group of times. This is still before the first order, but it's the second group of times he supposedly violated. So on number 1, by virtue of a statement defendant made to the media in the hallway outside the door to the Supreme Court of the State of New York, County of New York, Part 59. Okay. This is what they said Trump said. And when are they going to look at all the lies that Cohen did in the last trial? He got caught lying in the last trial. So he got caught lying, pure lying. And when are they going to look into that? So Cohen is Trump's former attorney. We all know the story about him. He's supposedly going to be testifying later in the trial within the next week or 2. And Trump is basically saying he's a liar. He lied to Congress and went to jail. He's lied to prosecutors, the police. He lied in court. So Trump is saying basically, how can you believe this guy when he comes in here and he holds his hand up and supposedly supposed to tell the God's honest truth? But what Trump is saying, if that man come in this courtroom and do that, lightning will fall from the sky and strike him straight through the building. If he come in there saying he's going to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So help him, God. Let's see. It seems like every time I click off, I think it's the software that I'm using to stream this video. Okay, so we did number 1. Number 2, he gave an interview to a program called Just the News, No Noise, which is broadcast on network called Real America's Voice. Trump supposedly said, the judge is rushing this trial like crazy. Nobody's ever seen a thing go like this. That jury was picked so fast, 95% Democrat. That area is mostly all Democrat. You think of it as just a purely Democrat area. It's a very unfair situation, that I can tell you. Wow. Okay. So this one, the gag order originally said you can't talk about the jurors or potential jurors. So, and obviously Trump shouldn't even want to talk about these people. So I believe that comment is a little over the edge, because these are the people that will be deciding your fate. Now, of course, you still got to go through the appeals court. Even if they find them guilty, the appeals court might throw it out. But for the moment, they are deciding your fate. So the last thing you want to do is insult them, talk about them, and say they're Democrat, because you don't know. As an attorney, when I pick a jury, I wouldn't go in saying, oh, this person is Democrat, Republican. They're not going to like me. They're not going to vote in favor of my client. It's good to have a mixed, diverse group of people, because you have all different aspects, whether they're Democrat or Republican. Now, I can understand this is a little different, because this is a type of political trial where the person on trial, Trump, is a former president and possibly a future president. So, of course, it's a concern for Trump that he don't want Democrats, people that vote against him, to decide his fate. But it's hard to really say what they would do before they do it. So it's best not to talk about them at all. Because if they were in your favor and you're talking about them, they may go the other way. So it's best just to stay away from the jury. Number 3, by virtue of another interview Trump gave to a program called Action News, which is an ABC News affiliate in Pennsylvania. He said, well, Michael Cohen is a convicted liar, and he's got no credibility whatsoever. Michael Cohen was a convicted liar, but what he did is he did some pretty bad things. So again, Michael Cohen is a witness of the case, on the case, and you're not supposed to talk about witnesses on the case. But at the same time, witnesses shouldn't be allowed to talk about people as well. If you're a witness on the case, you should be silent, just like the defendant and the other prosecutors, court staff should be silent. Nobody should be talking about anything in the news except in the courtroom while the trial is going on. It's just inappropriate to do so. So if what Trump is saying, if Michael's going to talk about me and I'm running for president, I have to defend myself, I'm going to talk about him back. So I don't think 3 is a violation of the gag order, especially since the judge said last time that, Michael, if you're going to keep talking about Trump, I'm going to give him permission to talk about you back, because obviously you don't need the court's protection. You can handle it yourself. You out here talking about Trump, you don't need the court's gag order. You don't need my protection. You can't talk about him and then come crying to the court saying, hey, judge, I was talking about him, but now he's talking about me back. Nope. We're gonna have it fair on both sides. And number 4, by virtue of a press event Trump held at the 49th Street and Park Avenue in Manhattan, in response to a question about David Pecker's ongoing testimony in this trial, Trump said he's been very nice. I mean, David's been very nice, a nice guy. David Pecker is also a witness in the case that testified. He's a member of the American, I think they call themselves the American Media Group or something like that, where David Pecker was in charge. He was with the media company. He was in charge of getting any stories that's negative about Trump, buying those stories from people, and then killing the story, basically burying it so no other person or media can talk about it. So that's who David Pecker was. Trump's lawyer, Michael Cohen, would always meet with David Pecker so David Pecker can go out and find anything negative about Trump and destroy it. So, but Trump said when he testified, obviously, he was nice. And I get it, because David Pecker, I believe he has immunity And the only reason he's testifying, because that's probably part of his plea agreement, that, hey, if you don't testify against Trump, you going to jail. So he got to fulfill his end of the bargain, like, so he don't get in trouble, because if he don't fulfill his end of the plea agreement, then the immunity can be pulled off the table and then he can be prosecuted. So he has to do just enough to uphold his end of the deal without saying too much to where he wants Trump to look like the bad guy, if that makes sense. He has to talk about Trump a little bit because that's part of his deal, but without going overboard. And I'm sure when Trump's former lawyer gets on the stand, Michael Cohen, he's going to go overboard. He's going to go above and beyond. Let's see. Okay, the judge goes on to write, Trump does not dispute that he made the statements. Rather, Trump said he advances several defenses to support his claim that his actions do not constitute a willful violation of the expanded order, and that he should therefore not be found to be in criminal contempt. Trump argues, for example, that he did not willfully violate the expanded order because the post constitutes protected political speech made in response to attacks by Michael Cohen, his former attorney, and that his comments about the jury do not violate the order because he did not specifically reference any prospective juror or any juror in this criminal proceeding. Finally, he claimed that his comments about David Pecker do not constitute a violation at all. So the judge got to make a decision. We got the prosecutor's arguments, then Trump's response. He's saying, David Pecker, I didn't talk about him bad. I said nice stuff about him. Michael Cohen, I was responding to attacks. And he said, as far as commenting about the jury, I didn't comment about a specific juror member. Well, the jury, they're one body. So if you're saying something about one, you're saying something about all. So I don't know if that one's going to hold enough weight, because you don't have to call them by name to be talking about them. If you say, hey, they're all Democrat, well, you literally are talking about all of them. So the best thing to do, especially when you're talking about people that's going to decide your fate, as I said earlier, is not talk about them at all. So the judge goes on to cite some law where he gets his authority to hold Trump in contempt. We went over that in the last video, so I don't have to go over all of that. Let's see. And let's get to the decision. This court cannot find beyond a reasonable doubt that defendant statements oh, come on, you for real. I think that was my fault. I'm going to figure this out one day. Let me not touch it. Let me just keep my hands off of it. This court cannot find beyond a reasonable doubt that the defendant's statements referenced in Exhibit E and G were not protected political speech. Okay, made in response to political attacks by Michael Cohen. So what the court is saying, that they agree with Trump. Michael Cohen, he's out here making TikToks, Trump's former lawyer talking about Trump. So he's basically saying he believes Trump's statements are political speech. So he can respond. So what the judge is saying, Trump did not violate the order with respects to Michael Cohen, because Michael Cohen is out here running his mouth. So he's giving Trump permission to run his mouth back. The court goes on to say, likewise, this court cannot find beyond a reasonable doubt that the defendant's statement referencing Exhibit H constitutes a violation of the expanded order. To be sure, this court understands that the people's argument, the prosecutor's, Alvin Bragg's argument, as it pertains to this exhibit, and agrees that often seemingly innocuous or even complimentary words and phrases can, in truth, conceal a more nefarious purpose, such as to threaten, harass, or intimidate. However, context, facial expressions, emphasis, and even cadence are critical in reaching such a determination. Under the circumstances here, this court cannot find beyond a reasonable doubt that the statement in question constituted a veiled threat to Mr. Pecker or to other witnesses. So again, so far the judge is saying Michael Cohen statements, Trump's former lawyer, not a violation. Both of those are not a violation because it was 4 total in this new set. So 2 are not a violation, and then number 3, David Pecker, is not a violation. He said David Pecker's a nice guy. That obviously is not a threat to David Pecker. And the judge probably watched the video, looking at his face, his demeanor. He's not threatening that, that man. He understands that supposedly Trump and David Pecker has been friends for many years. So he understands David Pecker is doing what he has to do in order to stay out of prison. So he's not really just coming down hard on David Pecker. So saying he's a nice guy is not a threat. So the judge is saying that's not a violation, prosecutor. So quit filing these violations, quit filing motions saying y'all want Trump in contempt when there's not even a basis for the violation. But let's go on, because Trump did say something about the jury. And let's see what the judge had to say to that. If this computer act right, come on, computer. Come on here, Apple. Turning to the statement referenced in People's Exhibit F, this court finds that the people have established the elements of criminal contempt beyond a reasonable doubt. This court expanded order is lawful and unambiguous. Defendant violated the order by making public statements about the jury and how it was selected. In doing so, defendant not only called into question the integrity and therefore the legitimacy of these proceedings, but again raised the specter of fear for the safety of the jurors and of their loved ones. Such concerns undoubtedly threaten to interfere with the fair administration of justice and constitutes a direct attack on the rule of law. It remains this court's fundamental responsibility to protect the decency of the criminal process and to control disruptive influences in the courtroom. Well, I guess this would be outside the courtroom because all this happened outside the courtroom. The court finds Trump in criminal contempt for willfully disobeying a lawful mandate of this court in violation of Judiciary Law Section 753. So I guess he's going to make his findings or his punishment. So what's your punishment, Judge? You done wrote all that. What's your punishment? As stated in its decision in order on April the 30th, 2024, criminal contempt is punishable by a fine not exceeding $1,000 or by jail not exceeding 30 days, or both, in the discretion of the court. So the court is saying we can fine you money or we can lock you up. But the court goes on to say, and I'm going to put my mouse, I hope I don't mess it up. Y'all see my mouse right here where it say because the offensive statement was made prior to this court's decision of April 30th, and because the state, the prosecutors, Alvin Bragg, the people are seeking only a monetary fine, this court will once again fine defendant $1,000. However, because this is now the 10th time that this court has found defendant in criminal contempt, spanning 3 separate motions, it is apparent that monetary fines have not and will not suffice to deter Trump from violating this court's lawful orders. Oh, that was a lot. Golly. Oh. I didn't know it was going to take all that, Judge. He said all that to say what? All right, so this is my issue. Well, let me see. The last 2 sentences contradict each other, in my opinion. Because where the word because is at, I'm going to try to do it again. I think this software, every time I use it, you're supposed to click 1 finger, 2 fingers. Because the offensive statement was made prior to this court's decision of April 30th. So the court is saying all this stuff happened before April 30th, I'm only going to give him a fine of $1,000 because he hasn't had time to digest my last ruling and violate it again. So since April 30th, Trump has been good. There has been no violation. So the judge is saying, since he just got my ruling a couple of days ago, I'm not going to hold him liable for stuff that happened before April 30th. Yeah, he was still in violation. I still have to fine him, but I'm not going to put him in jail. But then the court takes an interesting turn in the last sentence. He said, however, because this is now the 10th time this court has found defendant in criminal contempt spanning 3 separate motions, it is apparent that monetary fines have not and will not suffice to stop Trump from violating this court lawful orders. How can you say that the fines have not and will not stop Trump when he hasn't done anything since you fined him the first time? So obviously the fines are working because April 30th, you got April 30th, May 1st, May 2nd, May 3rd, May 4th, May 5th, May 6th. Obviously the fine has been working because we have a good 7 days of Trump not saying anything. So why are you saying that the fines have not and will not work? Y'all see my sign right there. Let me find out, Judge, you don't want them to work. You don't want them to work because the calendar is clear. Let's see. The calendar is clear. Let's look at the calendar. April 30th is when you wrote the ruling. 7 days ago, last Monday. And since 7 days ago, nothing happened. Trump hasn't violated. So you find him on the 30th, you find him $9,000. He paid it. He took down the post that you ordered him to take down and nothing has happened. So why are you now saying that the fines are not working? Because he violated the gag order again. Yes, he violated it again, but it was before April 30th, before you told him that he was doing anything wrong. So yeah, I know you want to make it sound good on paper that the fines are not working. He's still violating my gag order. But when you really look into it, he's actually not. You can't let someone do something wrong for 10 times. Then after 10 times, you correct them. Now, once you correct them, anything after that is fair game because now they know their expectations. They know what they're doing wrong. But you can't go in and say, hey, you violated it 1 time. You violated it 2 times. You violated it 3 times. Those are not separate things. It's 10 total once you found out, once they were corrected, anything after that. You just can't say, okay, you violated it on the first day. You violated on the second day. That's a separate offense. No, that's all one offense because they didn't know that they were doing anything wrong. So that's why I think the judge really had this ruling and he wrote it in a weird way. It's almost like it's letting the appeals courts know that Trump is violating my order. But if the appeals court go back and look at this calendar or look at the dates, they will see that he did not violate it for a second time. Now the question will become, will Trump violate it again? Who knows? As of right now, at the time of this recording, nothing. Who knows in the future? Because the judge is saying if you violate it again, I may have no choice but to put you in jail. Let's finish up. I think it was just a few more things on that page. So the court is basically saying, therefore, oh my goodness. Come on, computer. Therefore, defendant is hereby put on notice that if appropriate and warranted, future violations of his lawful order will be punishable by incarceration. And it is hereby ordered that Trump pay $1,000 fine for his violation of the court's lawful order by the close of business on Friday, May 10th, 2024. And it is further ordered that if the offendant's statement has been posted to Trump's Truth Social account or his official campaign website, is to be removed by 2:15 today, which is way past time. And that's the decision and order of the court. Yeah, what's at the bottom? I don't know. Okay, maybe the judge's signature. So yeah, so that's what the judge is saying. That's what the judge is saying. Tell me what y'all think in the comments. Do y'all agree that the judge did the right thing with withholding this order? He took forever. He took 20 days from the time Trump violated the order the first time, allegedly violated it. If he could have corrected him the same day or the day after, on April 10th, April the 11th, April 12th, April 15th, April 16th, he could have told Trump, like, hey, cut it out. But what you can't do is wait 20 days and then try to say that all of these violations are separate offenses. I mean, obviously that's not accurate, and that's not fair. So that's all I have for this topic. I may break down some of the other parts of the trial, such as the witnesses so far, to kind of give y'all an idea of how the trial is going and the evidence that the prosecution has presented so far. If there's another topic that y'all want me to specifically address, just let me know in the comments and I'll be happy to do that on the next video. So that's going to wrap it up for this. I think I'm going to end this stream so I can jump on the Nathan Wade stream just to keep it separate. And I'll finish up with that one right after this. And make sure that I covered everything I wanted to cover on this one. Okay, yeah. So that's pretty much it. And for those of you who can and able, like, share the video or subscribe, this really helps the algorithm and more people can actually see it and it can get out to more people. Sometimes the video, being a new streamer, sometimes it may get out to 800 people and sometimes it may go out to 100 people. So I guess it's just the way that everything is set up within YouTube. But before I get out of here and before I end this stream, I have to remind the public, I'm a lawyer, but I'm not your lawyer. I'm just here to talk that law. All right, I'll see y'all on the next one.